What's up, guys? Thanks for checking out this episode of the podcast today. I have Kevin Wood, all the way up from Canada, from CrossFit Moncton. And I'm excited to talk about how Kevin was a physical education teacher, how he discovered CrossFit in that journey, and now how he's helping people be more than average with his mindset coaching. So I'm excited to go through this journey and see what Kevin's got going on. Thanks for hopping on, Kevin.
Hey man, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I was glad that you reached out. So Kevin and I are connected through um, a similar mindset group, and so when Kevin saw that I had a podcast, he reached out and like checked all the boxes of the people that I'm interested in talking to. People who are like pursuing their passion and taking that mindset work and turning it into action. And also being a CrossFit level 3 and gym owner, I was like, oh heck yeah, like we're talking similar language.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah. So with that, I want to start first. What do you do now? And then we'll kind of put it in reverse and we'll come back.
Cool. Yeah. So 15-year CrossFit affiliate owner. It'll be 15 years in July. Um, the hats that I wear, I still coach some classes. Um, like 5 or 6 classes a week, some personal training, still do some sales stuff, nutrition and mindset coaching. It's kind of scattered. I actually enjoy that because I hate routine and monotony. So I don't like doing the same thing over and over, which is probably why I like CrossFit because every day is different. But yeah, that's kind of my day in and day out kind of stuff. And then outside of the gym, playing disc golf, playing with my daughter, taking her to horseback lessons, stuff like that. So yeah, still try to stay active even outside of the gym.
That's super cool. I was just telling somebody yesterday, they asked what I did. And I was like, well, my main thing's my gym, but I also like mentor coaches and I do this mindset coaching. And like from the outside, it might look like I've got like all these different things going on. But in reality, it's just like different avenues of me doing the same thing, which is like helping people, feel healthier, happier, and, as my gym says, be more adventurous. And it's like some people need help with their coaching to do that. Some people need mindset coaching to do that. Some people need to actually come into my gym and work out and get exposed to nutrition. And um, people find themselves sometimes even floating from one camp to the other, but just being able to help in different aspects of that so people can live a more fulfilled life is ultimately what I'm doing in all of these different avenues.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. I just had 2 messages today. From one was from a nutrition client that were kind of diving into that mindset component, and the message was, "Hey, this mindset thing is actually working. I didn't go down a typical spiral that I would have under these circumstances." I was like, "Sweet, it's winning." So then, obviously, the next question was, "What does that say about you?" And then she answered with, "I matter." Like, you just got your daily affirmation. Like, you created it yourself. You're getting it. And then another client sent a thank you saying, he's never been this consistent with exercise before. He's an online client. We've only met in person once or twice before. But he's saying he's down to his lightest weight. He's loving it. Every day is motivating to work out. So yeah, it's all about helping. I will help any way I can. Um, as long as the other person's ready, willing, and able to do so.
That's super cool. So going all the way back to like, how did you get started doing this? Because I know, you told me you started as a physical education teacher. So how did this journey begin of like helping people do all of these things?
So yeah, I can go way back. I've never had a gym membership in my life. I was never a global gym member. I didn't really know my way around the weight room. I was that skinny kid in school. Like, how is he standing up? Like, there's no muscle tone to him at all. And I was still like active and stuff. I could do things, but you could count my ribs very easily. Um, when I was teaching Phys Ed, I did that for 5 years. Um, and in my third year teaching, one of the parents of the students that I was teaching came in for parent teacher interviews. He was a police officer, and he was doing CrossFit with his unit, his patrol. And he showed me the website. He's like, "Hey, check this out. I think this is something that you could do with your students." And I looked at the website and I was like, that would kill people. Like, if people do those workouts, they'll just die. Like, I don't understand that. And so I hummed and hawed over it. And then later that year, that was December of 2006, I attempted my first CrossFit workout, which was the Filthy 50s. And I couldn't walk properly for the next 4 or 5 days. I actually had to ask the secretary at the school for a key to the elevator so I could use the elevator because I could not go down the stairs. Uh, Years later, I found out there's a trick. You can actually walk backwards down the stairs and it makes it easier. But uh, anyway, rant
Well, and we've
tangent.
also learned the trick as and we talked about this offline, but we've also learned the trick of coaches of like, oh, that was too much too early,
Yeah.
and now we make sure that our members don't experience that sort of adverse effect from your first workout.
Yeah. It took a few years before I kind of understood the concept of scaling and modifications. And, I was just talking about this on my podcast the other day. It was trial by fire. Like, when people first wanted to try CrossFit, we did this like half Cindy workout, which is like, we had push-ups, sit-ups, and air squats for 10 minutes. And outside the gym was it was a good sized step, and people would fall out of the gym. We're like, oh, okay. So after a little while, we had to change it up. And now we don't even do an intro workout at all. We just have people come in and we just chat with them, more of a prescriptive model. So we find out, what are their main goals and decide what's the best course of action for them. But yeah, going back to the origin of this, I started doing CrossFit with my students. Maybe not as appropriately as I should have, but again, young and I didn't know any better back then. But we included that as our fitness component as part of physical education. We were still doing all the sports and activities and stuff, but we use CrossFit as that physical fitness component. And then when I moved schools, I actually started like a lunchtime intramural program. So students and teachers would come down to the gym at lunchtime, and I'd throw them through some different types of CrossFit workouts. I was like, man, like, people are really enjoying this and asking me more about it. And then I started hosting people at my house. They called it the House of Doom or the House of Death. But people would see us out. We'd be out on the sidewalk with like kettlebells and dumbbells, throwing them around. I had a wall ball area marked on the side of my house, and it grew from there. I said, I'm gonna make this a thing, and that's how CrossFit Moncton was born.
What how long did it take you for you to make it a thing after you had started yeah,
Yeah.
how long from the beginning to opening up the gym? How long was that?
So it was December 2006 when I did my first workout, and July 5th, 2008 when it was an official business. It was a
Oh, very
grand
cool.
opening. So, yeah, about a year and a half. And it's funny because I have right beside me here, I have all of my old training journals. I wrote everything down. Every workout that I've ever done, there's a record of it. And I remember that first year and a half, I was super inconsistent. Like, there were like 2 or 3 months where I did nothing, and then I'd jump back on and do like 5 workouts in the week. So no wonder it didn't catch on, because I didn't understand the concept of like progressive overload and, easing into it a little bit. So yeah, it was a little choppy at the start, but that early 2008 is when I stayed super consistent with it, and then, decided this is going to be a thing now.
When you opened your gym, did you keep teaching or did you quit teaching?
I was still teaching full time. So that was challenging. I would do, at the start, I would do 2 evenings a week and then one session on the weekends. And that lasted for that summer. And then in Canada, it gets dark and cold real quick. So we had to find an indoor location out of necessity. I was like, oh, we can't keep doing this in a school playground. So we found an indoor location. It was October. So yeah, it was getting pretty chilly. And after that, other people like were starting to be consistent. And so I started just asking the consistent friends that I had, hey, do you want to be a coach? And so they started coming on. And that's when we were able to add more classes. That it wasn't all me. I actually remember the very first time we offered a morning class. It was a 6 a.m. option, and I slept through my alarm. I didn't even wake up. And my friend Jane, she was a member, and she called the house. I didn't hear the phone. My roommate answered it, and this is at like 6:05 in the morning. And she's like, "You motherfucker, you better get out of bed." And that's to my roommate because she thought it was me that was picking up the phone. Anyway, late for my first 6 a.m. and I ended up doing some penalty burpees as a sorry for them. So
That's pretty
yeah.
funny. Is that that's something that's one of the ways that I hear people go from, their current job to becoming an entrepreneur. Some people just like totally jump ship, and other people like it's a gradual process. What do you say to people? And I'm sure you've gotten this as a 15-year affiliate owner. Like, hey, how do I go from working my job to opening my business, whether it's a CrossFit gym or anything else?
So I didn't have like a huge amount of money saved up to open my gym. And I'll be transparent here. It took a $10,000 line of credit just to kind of get the equipment, open the doors, and get started. Um, so I didn't have a ton of money just sitting around to quit teaching and do this full time. I remember my 3-year business plan said at the end of year 3, I was hoping to have 33 members. And I was like, that'll be pretty good. I'll still be teaching. So I had no intentions of giving up teaching when I first started this. It was going to be concurrent for quite a while. But then it started taking off, and I had 33 members at the end of the first year. I was like, oh shit, now what? And I recognized that I ended up taking a leave of absence, and I kept extending it over and over just in case. It's kind of like my backup plan in case the CrossFit thing didn't work out. Um, but then I was also supply teaching on a few days during the week just to kind of supplement the income. So it was literally perfect. Like I couldn't have asked for a more gradual way of going into full-time gym ownership. Um, yeah. And maybe it's like a fairy tale. Like that doesn't happen to everybody. You kind of have to like decide or not. I don't know how those people do it.
I don't think so. I mean, I think it depends on the personality. Like I'm a burn the ships sort of person where it's like when we're going to do it, we're going to do it and there's not a backup plan, and I commit harder when I do that. Um but I do acknowledge that the smarter option is when it's time, like it'll be obvious. And like you had described, it's like, oh, like this is so big, like I don't really have a choice. Like I'm coming to a crossroads where it's like either I need to have somebody else run this because like somebody has to do this, or I leave this job and I go run this, and we can't it continue to be where we're at. And I think that's the honestly, I think that's the smart option that I suggest most people do.
I remember I was talking to the guidance counselor, the school counselor at the school I was working at, saying, I was thinking about starting this CrossFit gym and told him all about it. And he goes, "Yeah, that'll never work." And that moment on, I was like, "I'm going to make it work just to prove him wrong." I don't even know where he is anymore. Like, I don't, I don't even know if he's around. So, but that was enough for me to say, screw that guy. I'm going to make this thing happen. So
That's cool. I remember that there's multiple people in my life that had done that, and I've actually found myself. That's actually how I ended up teaching. Is I found myself pursuing proving somebody else wrong without actually, and in my case, not actually identifying whether this is something that like I wanted and was in alignment with me. And that was teaching math. So it goes all the way back to I remember my 8th grade math teacher. All of my friends had gone to like algebra 1, and I was in 8th grade math. And I've always been strong in math. And what really happened was like my parents just didn't know that this was an option, and my teachers didn't suggest it, so I just didn't end up going. Like there was just nobody that had said like, "Hey, you should go do this." I just kind of fell into place. And so I told my teacher like the first week, I was like, "Hey, I want to go into algebra. Can I switch?" And she was like, "Ah, we'll see." And uh, I ended up like getting like 97% on our pre-test that most people bomb, and didn't end up being able to go. And then at the end of the year, I ended up getting like the exact same score on the post test, which is the same test. And so from there on, I was like, no, I'm going to prove you wrong. And I'm going to be a stud at math all the way through high school, doubled up math classes, like got into calculus, ended up teaching, high school math. And then I got to a point where I realized, I was like, what a sicko. Like I went all the way I decided, it was subconscious, but it's like I decided, because you wouldn't give me what I want, that I'm going to go do your job.
Makes
And it
sense.
was like, oh, well, this is
Yeah.
this is not. Yeah. And then realizing, like, oh man, like, this job just isn't for me. And um as much as I do like math, I like problem solving. What I really like is problem solving. And that's what I do continue to take that skill, and I do appreciate all of the skills that I learned as a teacher, and I take that to my classes, and I still view myself as an educator. And so I'm grateful for that. But looking back, like, oh man, I pursued something out of spite and not out of alignment.
It's funny. I had the same, like, I was a math geek, loved that in high school. I took all the advanced math classes that I could because I was good at that problem solving and got great grades. I remember it was grade 11 advanced math. Our teacher said if we had a provincial exam, and he said if our class average was over 90, which is unheard of, he would throw a pool party and a pizza party for us. And we crushed it. We're like, yeah, we're going to kill this exam. We studied so hard, we got it. And he I don't think he expected us to, because anyway, it was a cool party though. But teachers can't do that anymore. You can't just have like, hey, bring your class over and have your kids swim in your backyard. That's crazy these days. But it was
Yeah.
totally normal back then.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what happened then? What's the last 15 years been like, now that you left teaching and now you pursue that CrossFit gym and helping people out?
People often ask me if I miss teaching. I hear that still to this day, even though it's been quite a few years since I've been in the classroom. And I really do miss the students. Like, I love teaching. I loved helping them and inspiring and motivating them to want to be better. But I didn't miss the administrative BS that happened behind the scenes. Being a phys ed teacher, you were expected to volunteer your time and coach multiple sports during your evenings. And the school that I was teaching at was, 40 minutes away from my house. So if we were going on these soccer tournaments, those were an hour and a half away, hour and a half back, 40 minutes back home. It drove me insane. So that's one of the main reasons why I left. Um, Now I get to choose what I do with my spare time. And if I want to spend time at the gym and help other people, then I can. But it's not like this expectation or requirement from my employer to do so. So that's one of the best parts is, I get to set my hours and when I want to work. And if I want to take a day off, then I can block my calendar and do so. So we're actually going to Costa Rica next week on a vacation with our family. We're going for 10 days and just going to hang out. Nothing is planned. That's like the best part. But yeah, when I first started, I was doing everything. I was literally wearing all the hats that you could wear. I was the coach. I was the programmer. I was the custodian, the plumber, and the electrician. Like literally everything. If a wall had to be busted out for an expansion, it's me in there with a sledgehammer and studs putting the wall back up. Right. So over the years, you know, thankfully we have people that are good at those other things. So we have people that are, our website coordinators, social media, um, customer outreach, the whole deal. We have a maintenance guy that fixes things when they break down. So now I get to spend a lot more of my time doing those higher value roles that I really enjoy. So trying to get rid of the things that I don't enjoy. One thing that I actually kept was the programming. I've been programming for my gym since the start. I do not see myself giving that up. I really just love the, that today we had a fun workout. Nobody knew what it was. They didn't know it was called Death by 10 meters farmer carry style.
Mm.
Nobody knew what it was, but I would coach every class today just because I love watching people react to the workout. So yeah.
That's super cool. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, but one thing that I heard, that a lot of people who don't pursue that understand, is when you're pursuing what's in alignment with your authentic self, you're willing to do more than you were before that. And going back to where you're like, the school told me I had to go do this after school and I had to stay longer and they didn't want to pay me more. And I'm just like, but then when you flip in the reverse and you're like, I love what I do, I'm willing to stay extra. I'm willing to be the plumber. I'm willing to do all these things. And maybe that's not the goal long term, but I'm willing and happy to do it because it's in alignment with where I'm supposed to be. And that doesn't necessarily, we're talking as gym owners, but that applies to anything. Like if you're like graphic design is where I want to be, but I'm working at Walmart, it's like, okay, but all of a sudden when you go into graphic design, you're like, I want to stay later. I want to do extra projects. I want to do this. And so, that's what I hope to encourage people to do is whether it's start a business or build a skill or find a new job. It's like, there's something out there that's going to fire you up and you're going to be excited to go to work. You're going to have to force yourself to go on vacation because you could just be there all the time. And people who don't find that, it's like I'm speaking a whole different language to them.
Yeah, 100%. Going back to what you said earlier about burning the boats, I feel like that's what my wife would need to do. I don't know if she's going to listen to this, so I don't know how much to say here. But she's tried her hands in real estate. So right now she works for a huge hotel chain on the back end. Um, like she gets called to meeting with like the president of the company and shit. Like it's crazy, but she hates it. It's not a fun job for her, but she doesn't know what it is that would drive that, like have that passion for her. And that's her struggle right now is finding out what drives her, like what motivates her to want to go to work and do stuff. So I feel like whenever she finds that, it couldn't be a gradual thing for her. It would have to be, I'm quitting my job and doing this. And then you're forced. Like your hands are literally behind your back. You have to make it work because there's no fallback plan.
Yeah, and for me having that personality, if I don't do that, I know that I'm giving like no effort to whatever my job is because it's like all of the mental energy is going towards that other thing. And so when I'm at that other job, I'm not present, I'm not delivering, I'm underperforming, and then I'm no longer an asset to the team because my mind, my heart, and my soul is like all over here. Um, and so then and then I'm now taking my heart's over here, but my time's over there. And it's like, well, nothing's moving forward. So for me, it's like something's got to give.
Yeah, for sure.
What are you doing either with your wife or with some of the people that you're mindset coaching? How are you helping them navigate through that, figuring out like what fires them up?
Yeah. So I've, I know for a fact this is like a law of nature. You can't coach your wife, period. Like that's off limits, don't do it. And so in the enlifted community that we're both a part of, my level one course that I took, uh, I referred my wife to one of those coaches, and she was more than willing to take her on to get some reps in and practice the enlifted method with her. So that's how I'm helping my wife is referring out so I don't have to do it. But for others, it's the first process is getting unstuck because a lot of people can't see anything that's not where they currently are. It's like they have blinders on, like that book in the face kind of analogy. All they see is you can't do this, you can't do that, you're a failure, this is what happened before, it's going to happen again. And so if they have those stories stuck in their mind, they can't see the future or any other potential. And so that's kind of step one is getting them unstuck. And then we move into celebrating the wins, and then we can get into goal setting after that. So like with that client I just mentioned about sending me that message earlier today, she's feeling better, she's telling me she's feeling better. So now it's time to let's start highlighting some of the good stuff and start some goal setting so we can really start to make some progress.
Yeah, and so we talked about this before. Is like I see this trajectory to go from stuck to purpose. Of like one, we have to have this foundation, and the foundation looks like habits. It looks like healthy nutrition. It looks like working out. It looks like structuring your time so that you have the perseverance and uh, to be able to like work on something long term, and that is really not as big picture as purpose, and I acknowledge that's really tough for a lot of people. Like starting a fitness program, super tough. Work on nutrition, super tough. But when we zoom out, you'll realize that wasn't as tough as getting to your purpose. And so it's like we can work on this first because it's sort of superficial in a lot of ways. And then once we dial in that, and we can start looking at, okay, now where are the other areas in my life that I'm stuck? And you had described that as like a lot of that's in the head. It's the stories I've told myself. It's the past um that I'm stuck in, and those that language is a barrier that's preventing me from taking action. And so that second step is like, how do I create a mindset and work on my mindset so I can drop those barriers so that I can start moving in this maze. And then as I move through the maze, like you said, like celebrate any action. Like now that we've dropped the mindset barrier, we're starting to take action. Cool, let's celebrate action. And then as you take action, we can start evaluating like what actions fill you up, what actions leave you with more energy than you showed up with. And that can lead us then to goal setting and finding that thing that uh, creates purpose. But so many people show up and they're like, hey, how do I find my purpose? And it's like, well, this is what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to build habits, work on your mindset, and then start using that mindset to take more action. Is that consistent with what you've seen?
Very similar. So I'll kind of describe how the history of how I got to where I am in our systems. So we have I've created what's called 3 pillars of health. It's fitness, nutrition, and mindset. When I started the gym, it was 100% fitness, like all about moving, getting fit, getting stronger, stuff like that. And soon after, it wasn't very long after, I realized people could not get the best results or optimal results if they only worked on on their fitness. They had to do something with their nutrition. So then enter precision nutrition, did the level 1, level 2, tons of other nutrition courses along the way. So then I started again helping people with their eating. Okay, well now we're getting some better results, but some of the people weren't. So what was stopping them? And so for them, it came down to their mindset. Again, they're stuck. They're stuck in their head. They can't get out. There's all these stories that they're telling themselves. And so they're not able to make changes in their fitness or their nutrition. And now that's why that's kind of our third pillar. So for me, it was kind of reverse when I think you know, it is what it is, but starting people with mindset stuff, um, I'm getting better results. Now, what's easier to start? Mindset stuff or joining a gym? And I think it's joining a gym because it's very easy. There's a gym. This is the things that they do. Here's my credit card. We get started. Versus mindset, you need to be vulnerable, super vulnerable. Like, what are those stories that are in my head? What is blocking me? Well, I haven't talked to anybody about that. Why would I talk to you about that? And so that's the challenge I see in getting people the progress that they want, is recognizing that those stories in their head are keeping them stuck. And until we address those, everything else that we layer on top is really being built on kind of a loose foundation. I use the analogy of, if you had a giant rubber band around your waist and it's attached to the wall, and I tell you to do something that's healthy for you, like start exercising. Okay, take a step forward. You feel some tension in that band, but it's not too bad. Okay, now I want you to start drinking more water. Take another step. That band's getting a little tighter. Get 10,000 steps in a day. Get adequate amount of sleep. Reduce stress. Get outside as often as you can. That band is getting really friggin' tight, and eventually it's going to snap them back. And where it snaps them back is their default position. My purpose now is to change that default position. And we can start that process by working on their mindset and the stories that they tell themselves. So that when we start stacking those habits over and over again, if they happen to snap back, it's just like, oh, dust themselves off and they're good to go and start again. It's not starting back at zero.
Yeah, and it's I describe it like it's steps because most people follow that steps, but it's not linear like that. And like you've described, and there's some people that need to like you said, work on that mindset before they start taking action. But then there's other people that need to take action to realize that their mindset is what they
Correct.
need, that tension around, they need that rubber band tension to realize, oh shoot, this is what's holding me back. And so being able to work on all those, and as we continue to evolve as coaches at my gym, we start layering in all of those early. And so and a lot of times they don't even realize that's what we're doing. Like it's just like,
Yeah.
hey, here's a little bit of mindset, here's a little bit of nutrition. Come to the gym 3 times a week, and then as they get more and the coming to the gym gets easier, it's like, okay, cool, maybe we go a little bit more nutrition, or maybe go a little bit more mindset, and then just continue to like try to raise all 3 bars at the same time, while really making one the main focus, but layering in the other two as we go, and that seems to give people the biggest success the quickest.
Absolutely.
Hey, if you made it this far into the episode, I just want to say thanks for checking it out. If you're digging it, then please leave me a 5-star review on Spotify and hit subscribe on YouTube. You already got the app open, so real quick, just make that happen. That will let me know that you're digging it and help me reach even more people. So I appreciate it, and let's get back to the episode.
Like you said, layering it on little by little. Like we have the soft talk challenge posted at the gym right on the wall. So people are like, hey, what's that? Oh, I was like, oh, I have a copy of that you can have. And they take it home with them or they take it into their work and they start recognizing these soft words that they're saying constantly that's preventing them from making any long-term sustainable progress. And they're like, oh man, I recognize a lot of other people saying this now too. I'm like, cool. So not only are you thinking about your thinking, now you're recognizing how other people are thinking. And that's when real progress starts to happen.
Yeah, and so for the people who don't know what we're talking about with soft talk is language that elicits passive inaction. And so words like should, could, maybe, almost like, probably, possibly.
I think I might want to start working out. Well, how
Yeah.
confident are you about working out? Because that doesn't
Yeah,
sound confident at all.
opposed to I'm going to work out on Monday.
Yeah. Okay. I believe you.
And so at the beginning of the year uh we did a challenge that included working out regularly, paying attention to major markers with the diet, and then having a mindset piece. And one of the weeks included soft talk, and just like getting our members to be aware of how their language affects their action. And certain language will promote inaction, and other language will promote action. And just seeing them have that revelation has been huge. And it doesn't always have to be one-on-one mindset coaching. Sometimes it can be as simple as hearing somebody talk shit about themselves, and you just tell them like, hey, don't talk about my friend Kevin that way. And they're like, oh.
Yeah. 100%. It's funny to see, like we have our soft talk words posted in our kitchen. And so if my daughter asks me, hey, can we go climbing tonight? And I say maybe, she goes, that's on the list. It's like, duh, she got me. We will talk about that later. Then she makes sure that we talk about it later, right? So anyway,
That's funny.
yeah.
Yeah, and it does make you, and that doesn't mean that those words have to be completely eliminated from your vernacular, but you're very more specific. And so when I say maybe, it means there's other things that have to line up for this to happen. That's why I mean maybe. It doesn't necessarily mean like, maybe we'll do that. It's like, well, if this happens, this happens, this happens, then yeah, we can go. But if this
She
happens and
wants
that
me to
happens,
say those
then
things though. She wants
right,
the
right.
list.
Yeah, yeah. And that's fair. I think
Yeah.
that's fair.
I
Yeah,
would
what
want
is
the
the
list.
what
I want to know, right?
yeah, what needs to happen for us to be able to go do this? It's like, okay, here's and then you got to hold yourself to it, just like the teacher did with the pool party.
Yep, absolutely.
So what kind of things, tell me more about who you're working with specifically with your one-on-one mindset coaching.
So still new into this, just recently graduated from the level 1 in the middle of the level 2 within lifted. So right now I'm currently working with my current clients. I kind of trick them into doing this mindset stuff. I just kind of started throwing in some word games in our meetings that we have. Um, and then with their permission, I asked them if we could go into their stories, and majority of them said yes. They're totally willing to do so. And yeah, just started working their stories with them and showing them that there's another version of themselves that's almost hidden in there that we can tap into, that will create action and meaningful action, getting them to where they want to go supercharged more quickly than they could have done kind of just on their own, or with that victim mentality stuck in their head. So I'm still building my website and my offering and branding and all that. So that's going to be coming out very soon.
That's super cool. And I did the same thing. I just recently really ramped up the one-on-one mindset coaching, but it started all the way back in like January, where we did goal sessions with all of our members, and we played some word games and helped them create goals that were I can because goals. I can do this because of this. And now that has been a more powerful way for them to create action, opposed to a lot of people are like, oh, you should have SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, achievable, repeatable, and I don't remember what the T stands for.
Timely.
Time, yeah, time based. And so a lot of people have goals. They're like, oh, well, I'm gonna lose, 1 pound a week for 26 weeks. And it's like, yeah, that's cool, but like that doesn't elicit any emotion, and it definitely doesn't elicit any sort of action. You
That's
didn't say what you're gonna do.
right.
You just told me the result.
That's an outcome goal.
Yeah, and so instead we created goals that were totally action based. I can do this thing. What's the thing that I'm going to do? And I can do it because either why. The because was the why, or the because, like, why do I want to do it, or why can I do it? What's but because they have this action that's backed up with a reason, now they've actually done the thing, and the result wasn't the focus, the action was the focus, and the result simply followed the action.
I love the science behind the word because. I really love it. So to the listeners, if you say a sentence and then put because at the end of it, it literally doesn't matter what you say after the word because. It instantly provides more meaning to what you just said prior. And that's the power of because. It's a huge word and I use it often with my clients, and it's very, very powerful.
Yeah, it is super powerful, and the whole thing with that, just to continue to bring this full circle, is like action. It's like, how do we change our stories so that we can take more action, so that you can feel more fulfilled, so you can find your passion, because that's ultimately what it's going to take. You're not going to find your passion reading a book, listening to a podcast, watching a movie. Like, those might make you feel good right now, and if that leads you to taking action right now, awesome, but that's not where you're going to find your passion.
You can get inspired and motivated from all those things, but until you actually get up and do it, nothing is going to change. You can't get better at push-ups by reading books about push-ups. You actually have to get on the ground and put the work in. And that goes for the same thing as if you don't know what your passion is, sitting on the couch scrolling through Instagram, you're not going to find your passion that way. You have to get out and you have to try new things. Is that uncomfortable? Yep. That's life. Life is uncomfortable. Get used to it, stop hiding, and go do things. Period.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I tell my members at the gym. Like, whenever they're like, oh, do I have to do this? Or like, oh, this is tough. Like, yeah, we do hard stuff. We do hard stuff today because we know life is hard. And when I put in effort into being uncomfortable and doing hard stuff today, the hard stuff tomorrow isn't going to be as hard. But if I choose comfort today, that hard stuff tomorrow is going to be impossible.
It's going to hit you in the face. I call that the hard stuff bank. And so I have literally like a memory bank of all of the hard shit that I've done in my life, so that when other hard things come up, I can recall that in the bank and say, "Oh, well, I did that. So this isn't any problem." And so it literally just makes life easier. That's it. Do hard things now so that life can be easier later.
And that also applies to social proof in the gym. And that's the beauty of having a community is when you see members come in that are dealing with a greater adversity to whatever it is you guys got going on today than you, then it changes your perspective of like, oh man, I guess I can push a little harder on this bike because, Kevin's got a bum shoulder and he still showed up. Or maybe I can run a little farther because, Karen wishes she could run and she can't because of, her condition. And so it's both like my experience, motivates me to do hard things, but also seeing what the people around me go through also pushes me and motivates me to get through those hard things.
We have similar stories, but with the pregnant ladies that come into the gym. If they can create life in their body and do this workout, what am I complaining about? There's nothing on the planet that I could complain about that's worse than what they're going through right now. They're creating a body in their body and they're still coming to the gym consistently. Get off the couch.
Yeah, totally. And I love whenever we have hero workouts, I say the same thing every time. I give them the background of the fallen, serviceman or woman that we're honoring for this workout, and reminding them that this workout's going to be extra hard than what we normally do. It might
Mhm.
be extra heavy, extra long. It's going to be extra difficult. And when that extra difficult happens and it shows up, remember that like we get to work out for fun and they wish they could be here working out.
Yep. We do that every August. We call August Heroes Month. And so we'll do 2 to 3 hero workouts each week. Some are more challenging than others, so we kind of distribute it evenly, but um, people look forward to that because they know how much that month means to us in the gym.
Yeah, it's different when you're complaining about your workout, and it's a totally another thing when you realize like, man, somebody died and died brutally and died literally giving it their all so that people like me can work out for fun. I guess I could run a little farther.
Yeah, push a little harder. And that's why I love the group. The idea, like back when I started, nobody was doing CrossFit around me. It was just me in my living room. And it's funny, a hero workout was the first one that ever made me throw up. It was Michael. It was so many sit ups and good mornings. Like it was so much up and down that my smoothie was all over the sidewalk. Um, anyway, that was those workouts alone way harder mentally than when you're in a group. And that's why I love the power of CrossFit because it's generally done in a group setting and you help each other through the workout more than you know. People think working out it's for you, but it's a team sport. It really is. We have people pushing other people through workouts that they thought, "Oh, I would have quit 2 rounds ago if it wasn't for everybody cheering me on." So, that's I love it so much.
When I love the grit that it develops. We find members who have said to me, because of the hard things that I did in the gym, because of the community support, I was able to overcome, my parents dying. I don't know how I would have gotten through that if I didn't, develop this grip and have these people to support me. But on the flip side, I also find people that really dive deep into that. And they're like, man, like I can push through the suck. I can do this hard workout. I can, they really dial in that mindset and they think that they have a good mindset because they can push through those workouts. But then when it comes to difficult things in life, they just crumble. And it's like, man, like your mindset is only as good as the places where you can apply it.
Yeah. I've used that same concept with cold plunges. So up in my garage, it's cold in Canada still, so my garage is not heated. Um, but yeah, I do it not for the physical benefits, but for the mental training. If I can sit in this ice tub for 10 minutes, I can breathe through anything. I can breathe through road rage. I can breathe through my kids screaming at me for absolutely no reason. And so that's the important part is applying this to the other aspects of your life, not just, hey, I do hard things in the gym. That's one aspect. You have to relate it to the other stuff.
Yeah, that's what I tell prospective members at my gym. They want to know what makes my gym different compared to other gyms, but also compared to CrossFit gyms. There's about a half dozen gyms that other people could go to. They're like, well, what makes you different? And it's our gym, we prioritize making sure that the work you put in the gym transfers outside the gym. And everybody says that. They're like, "Oh, your life's going to get better at the gym," but how many people are putting rubber to pavement to doing that? It's like not a lot. And we're going to do all the cool fitness stuff cuz we love fitness, If you want to get muscle ups, we'll work on muscle ups. You want to, PR your snatch, we'll totally work on that. But we're not going to lose sight of that this is only as good as it applies to your life. And so we're going to challenge you.
We had a comment this morning because we were doing those farmer carries and they were heavy. And it was every class. They're like, "Oh, this is like carrying in all the groceries in one trip." I'm like, "Yes, you can see how it relates." And then another class said, "Oh, this is like carrying your luggage when you're late for your flight at the airport." Yes, just like that. So they get it. We talk about it all the time, and it's nice when you hear them say it unprovoked. They know why we're doing the things that we're doing. Makes it so much more, you know, purposeful and meaningful on my side of it.
Yeah, totally. And it is cool when you can get them to see like, oh, this is how this movement has transferability. And then it's even cooler when they come back and they tell you like, hey, Coach Kevin, we were at the airport. I didn't let go of my luggage for 20 minutes because we had to run to the plane. And it's like, I know I could do that because we did those farmers carry workout.
Yep. I love it. They tell me all the time. They're like, "I had to pick up this rock in my backyard and move it." I'm like, "Sweet." One guy, his name's Tim. He's one of my long-term clients. He's been with me for like 13 years. He picks up engine blocks from the ground and can put it in the back of a truck. I don't know anybody else that can do that. I couldn't do it, but he is strong as shit. And so when he told me that, I'm like, "You're an animal. You're a beast. And you couldn't have done that if you haven't been training for the last 13 years the way you do." So anyway,
Oh, totally.
yeah.
And I will get some scruff from the older women in my family because I'll have my wife help me like move a couch.
Right.
And they're
Yeah,
like, "Don't you
yeah.
like shouldn't you invite a friend over or something?" I was like, "Whoa, whoa, let's be clear. One, she can do it. And then two, I will pick my wife to help me move a couch over any guy who doesn't work out 10 times out of 10."
Yep. Absolutely. When my wife was pregnant, we were building a new deck in our backyard and I needed a bunch of cement. She went to the Home Depot. Young guy came up to her and she was loading 50-kilogram bags of cement onto a pallet. And he goes, "Oh my God, you shouldn't be doing that." She was like 8 months pregnant, like popping. And anyway, she's like, "No, no, I'm fine. I got it." Like 50 kilograms for her is like not even a warm up weight at the gym. So for her, it
Yeah,
didn't
because
matter.
that's like what, 25, 30 pounds?
50 kg. No, that's more like 100
Oh, yeah, it's the
120
reverse.
pounds.
It's
Yeah.
like 120. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's still pretty heavy,
Sure.
but compared to like what she deadlifts or what she like is not a
Not
factor.
comparable. Anyway, she had a great
Yeah.
time. She had a good kick out of it when he's like, "Oh, okay then." He just kind of hovered around to make sure she was okay, I guess.
Yeah, that's super funny. Yeah, we experienced the same thing. We're loading stuff up in the truck and they're like, "Hey, can we help you?" And you're like, honestly, it's probably gonna go faster if I just don't have your help. Thank you
Yeah.
anyway."
Yep.
That's super cool. Well, man, as we wrap this up, what are some things that you're excited for the future?
Phew. Many things. Personally, I qualified for the Masters Pan Am Games for weightlifting. So I'll be headed down into Orlando in at the end of May. So I've been spending a lot of my free time in training mode, which is kind of nice that I have the space and the time to be able to do that thanks to our great team at the gym. Professionally, looking to expand again on that mindset aspect and nailing down some more one-on-one clients. I'm not sure when this episode will be posted, but maybe by then my website will be live and up, but it will be ifixyourmindset.com.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, man.
Well, one, I'm only an hour from Orlando, so if you have
Oh,
time
no way.
when you get down here, yeah, hit me up, and
Sweet.
yeah, and we'll see if we can connect in person.
Cool, man. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's super cool. Where can other than I'llFixYourMindset.com, where else can people like find you and connect with you?
Yeah, Instagram's a good one. So it's CF coach underscore Kevin. Um, You can email me. I like emails too sometimes. Kevin at CrossFitMoncton.com. But yeah,
Awesome.
Instagram's the best way, and I'd love to connect with anybody that wants to hop on and see what it's all about.
Cool. Thanks, man. Anything else that you want to share that we didn't touch on?
Um, yeah, for those that like podcasts, I have my own. It's called Resilient Humans. Feel free to check that out. It's on all the main platforms, Spotify, and Apple. So uh, just kind of like this episode, we talk to other resilient humans, find out their stories, what makes them tick, and hopefully we always leave our episodes with something practical and actionable to do. So it's not just inspiring stories, it's what are you going to do once you're done listening to that episode. So
Awesome.
yeah, man.
Well, on that note, what do you hope somebody does after having listened to what you got going on and what you've done?
That's a really good question. um, I would like to have somebody. Okay, here it is. I just thought of this. If you are unsure of what it is that you are passionate about or what you want to do, you need to remove some distractions. And the easiest way to do that is to go outside and go for a walk as slow as you can for 45 minutes with no headphones, no dogs, no wife, kids, nothing. Just you and your mind. Go for the walk and then just be. When you get home, put pen to paper for 15 minutes and just see what comes out. Some questions might come out. Totally fine. Then it gives you something to actually think about later on. So, yeah, get outside, walk, see what happens.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it.
No problem, man.
Hey, thank you so much for checking out this episode. If you didn't already, like, subscribe on the YouTube channel. That lets me know you're digging it. But even more importantly, let me know what your big takeaway was. If you made it this far, that means you got something out of it. So send me a DM or drop in the comments what your big takeaway was. And if your big takeaway was you're ready to be an action taker, you're ready to lean into your passion and unveil what living authentically to you, living authentically to what God has aligned for you, then book a one-on-one discovery call with me to where we can figure out and unveil what those obstacles are preventing you from living that life and provide some direction, some space, and some clarity to moving your life in that direction. So if that sounds like you, click the link in the show notes to book that discovery call so that we can connect. And until next time, thanks for listening.